Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this exciting edition of the GS1 Healthcare Provider webinars. We are thrilled to have you with us today as we continue our mission to enhance healthcare through implementation of GS1 standards. I am Monica Soler, and I will be your host for today. Our goal with these webinars, as you may know, is to inspire and to share valuable insights on successfully implementing GS1 standards, both in clinical and non-clinical areas of hospital. By showcasing these success stories, we aim to give you the tools, the knowledge, and also the confidence to bring similar improvements to your organizations. So before moving on to the presentation today, I would like to briefly remind you on the GS1 competition law caution under which all GS1 meetings are operated. Remember that the purpose of the group is to enhance the ability of all industry members to compete more efficiently. This means there shall be no discussion of prices, allocation of customers, products, boycotts, refusals to deal, or market share. If any participant thinks the group is drifting towards impermissible discussion, the topic shall be tabled until the opinion of counsel can be obtained. The full caution is available for you via the link below in case you would like to read it in full. So we are thrilled to have today with us Dr. Hideo Kubota. He's a leading expert in the implementation of GS1 standards as the director of the Central Supply Chain Department at Tokyo Medical and Dental University Hospital. Dr. Kubota brings over more than 15 years of huge experience in medical devices material management. He has been instrumental in establishing advanced traceability systems for surgical instruments and also for single-use devices, working obviously very closely with many solution providers to ensure the highest standards of safety and efficiency. His expertise does not stop at hospital doors. He's also a prolific writer and a prolific speaker, sharing his deep knowledge on the implementation of GS1 standards through many articles and lectures. So without further ado, let's welcome our guest today. Let's welcome Dr. Kubota as he presents traceability of surgical instruments in Japan. Dr. Kubota, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Monica. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll share my slides. Just a moment. Let me start by thanking you for attending this webinar. I'm Hideo Kubota from Tokyo Medical and Dental University Hospital. As a side note, this October, Tokyo Medical and Dental University will merge with Tokyo Institute of Technology to become Institute of Science Tokyo. We look forward to working with Institute of Science Tokyo in the future. Today, I'd like to talk about traceability of surgical instruments in Japan. My presentation will take about 30 or 40 minutes. This is a table of contents. First, I'd like to explain an overview of surgical instruments reprocessing in the hospital. I'm guessing that not everyone here is familiar with reprocessing in the hospital. So I thought I'd quickly run through the reprocessing in Japan. Second, we started a traceability system in 2009. I'll explain why we implemented the system. Then, I'm going to talk about the Pharmaceuticals and Medical Devices Act. This law is all about making sure that pharmaceuticals and medical devices are used safely and effectively. I'll explain how GS1 barcodes are used in this law. Next, I'll show you how we are managing surgical instrument using GS1 DataMatrix. Finally, I will summarize the topics. Now, let's start by looking at overviews of the processing in a hospital in Japan. After use, reusable medical devices, including surgical instruments, is cleaned, disinfected, and sterilized at the Central Sterile Supply Department, called GSSD, so that it can be used again. As shown in the figure, nurses and outsourcing staff verify that no instruments are left behind in the body after the surgery, and that all instruments used are present. Once the instruments have been retrieved, the CSSD staff will open and disassemble them before placing them in a basket for cleaning. Then the instruments are cleaned. It should be noted that there are two types of cleaning: mechanical cleaning using a washer disinfector, and manual cleaning by hand, such as brushing. Once cleaning is complete, the next step is to visually inspect the instrument to ensure that they have been properly cleaned and that there are no scratches or chips on the instruments. Once all the instruments have been cleaned and checked, the set is assembled. The cycle of sterilization, storage, supply, and use is then repeated. Let's take a closer look at each process. Used surgical instruments contain blood, tissue, and other biological debris. All of these are considered infectious and must be removed as much as possible. After cleaning, the instruments are handled manually by the staff. It is essential to eliminate any remaining infectivity to prevent the staff from becoming infected through their work. It is also essential to ensure that surgical instruments are properly cleaned to sterility assurance and prevent deterioration. The cleaning process is one of the most important steps in the processing. Once the cleaning process is complete, the next step is inspection. The staff performs a visual inspection of all items. We inspect for any defects such as scratches, chips, or deformation on the instrument. Small instruments, such as those used in microsurgery, may be overlooked by the naked eye. Therefore, they are inspected in detail using an illuminated magnifying glass. This inspection process is conducted by staff who are knowledgeable about the characteristics of the instrument to ensure their quality. Once the inspection is complete, the instruments are assembled. The set of instruments to be prepared in advance is determined according to the surgical procedure, and they are assembled according to the list and packed in containers, sterile bags, or other packaging materials. Once the instrument is packaged, the GS1 DataMatrix directly marked on the instrument is blocked by the packaging material and cannot be read by the reader. Therefore, it is necessary to read the GS1 DataMatrix on the instrument and link it to the packaging material in advance to determine which set contains which instrument. Packaged instruments are sterilized in sterilizer. Sterilization methods include high temperature and low temperature. The sterilization method is selected based on the instrument instruction for use, taking into consideration the characteristics of the instrument and its compatibility with the sterilant. In our hospital, hydrogen peroxide gas plasma sterilization and low temperature steam formaldehyde sterilization are used for low temperature sterilization. So far, once sterilization is complete, the next step is storage. At a hospital, storage is primarily done in automated rotating shelves. Containers, drapes, and sterile bags are labeled with a barcode issued by the hospital on the outside. Containers, drapes, and sterile bags when the barcode is scanned, the storage shelves automatically rotated, and a flashing red light indicates the location of the item to be stored, so the staff can place it in the indicated location. The same process is followed when supplying an instrument. Once an instrument has been selected for retrieval, the system automatically rotates to the level of the instrument, and the red light flashes to indicate the correct item. So far in this talk, we've looked at instrument reprocessing. Now, I'll talk about why we implement a traceability system. First, I'll run through what the CSSD is expected to do. I often say at the seminar that the CSSD is required to safe, economical, and efficient. Safety, in my view, means providing a stable supply of sterility-assured instruments without compromising the original performance and function of the instruments. But even to ensure safety, we can't spend a lot of money. We also have to avoid a lot of labor, as it would overburden our staff. The key is how to operate efficiently at a reasonable cost. There are standards for ensuring the sterility of an instrument. There are standards for cleaning and sterilization. In cleaning, each instrument must be cleaned so that the amount of residual protein is less than 200 micrograms. This is just the Japanese standard, and some countries have stricter standards. For sterilization, there is a sterility assurance level called SAL, which requires that sterilization condition be achieved to less than 10 to the minus 6. This is a global standard. When this condition is achieved, it's considered to be assured that the instruments are sterile. If I were to explain this standard, I'd end today's webinar with just this discussion, so I'll skip it. And it's not enough for an instrument to be sterile. It has to be in proper working order, meaning it has to be able to perform its function and performance without problems. Not only use, but also reprocessing can cause deterioration. For example, in cleaning, high pressure water streams, hot water, ultrasonic wave, detergent are considered damaging factors. If the detergent is not sufficiently rinsed, it can cause corrosion, clogs, and pitting on the instrument. In sterilization, in addition to high temperature and high pressure, some sterilization methods create a vacuum during the process. So the vacuum and sterilants, such as hydrogen peroxide, can affect the instrument. The work must be performed in a process that has been verified for compatibility with the instrument. Most process management is done manually. Inspection must be done visually, but tasks are recorded in a record book and signed when completed. The operating status of the washer disinfector and sterilizer are checked and stored along with the indicator used the judge cleaning and sterilization. In other words, rather than using any system or technology, the mainstream method is to pile up paper. This is a lot of work for staff. When they want to look up information, they have to search through pile up paper, which is inefficient and limit the amount of information that can be handled. As I mentioned earlier, surgical instruments are used, reprocessed, and used again. In CSSD, the surgical instruments are subjected to various processes to ensure the quality of the instruments they supply. At each process, it is important to know exactly when, who, where, which equipment was used, what instruments were processed, and how. Of course, repairs and disposals must also be kept in check. At the same time, the hospital needs to know which patients the processed instruments were used on from a patient safety perspective. Therefore, it's important to record and digitize the various points related to the use and reprocessing of surgical instruments. In this way, the CSSD can be regarded as a factory that manufactures sterilized equipment. Therefore, quality management is essential. Quality cannot be assured unless we can record whether each process was appropriate and trace back the history. We believe that the most effective way to implement evidence-based quality management is to utilize a traceability system. This is the reason why we implemented the traceability system. As UDA regulations advance globally to ensure the safety of medical devices, I will introduce the current regulatory and situation in Japan. Japan has the Pharmaceuticals and Medical Devices Act, which is a law established to ensure the quality, efficacy, and safety of pharmaceuticals and medical devices. It was revised in 2019, and traceability was mentioned in the law for the first time. This is a key aspect of the revision, which is intended to enhance the pharmaceutical and medical device development, post-marketing, and traceability processes. The revised legislation aims to improve the safety, efficiency, and speed of these processes. As part of this, the marking of barcodes on pharmaceuticals and medical devices has been made mandatory to enhance traceability. However, marking barcodes on all medical devices is not mandatory. As shown in this slide, while marking on the packaging was mandated, direct marking on individual instrument was not. For the CSSD, improved traceability is a necessity. This is because the quality of individual surgical instruments must be kept constant and safe. Each surgical instrument must be of consistent quality and supply safety. Furthermore, the usable surgical instruments deteriorate over time. There is a risk that they may break during the surgery or fall into the body. It is therefore essential to understand the life cycle of surgical instruments to be able to update them before an incident occurs, rather than replacing them because they break. This will lead to improved patient safety. Consequently, direct marking on surgical instruments is a necessity. As a university hospital, we have decided to obtain the GS1 company prefix and directly marked GS1 DataMatrix on as many surgical instruments as possible. As shown in this picture, it should be noted that marking is always done in two places. This is because just as the instruments deteriorate, the marking becomes faded and difficult to read after repeated use. Furthermore, if only one marking is used, the marking becomes faded and unreadable, and the marked information is lost. Marking is difficult to remark. Here are some of our efforts. First, let's talk about tracing information. We can identify the individual instrument used in a surgery based on the date of such and patient ID. We can also find as we set the instruments came in and the previous history. It's a traceability system, so it's no surprise that it's traceable. The data can be exported as an Excel file, allowing for more detailed analysis of individual instruments. Next, let's look at an example of data utilization for one of the most manpower-intensive processes, assembly. This bar graph illustrated the impact of systemization on the time required to create container sets. The operation method was modified and the system was implemented. Prior to this, surgical instruments to be prepared were arranged visually by looking at the paper checklist. This method was largely based on personal experience and intuition and dependent on the skill of the staff. After the implementation of the system, instruments can be uniquely identified by reading the GS1 DataMatrix marked on the instrument, allowing correct assembly regardless of the level of skill. In addition, the set list can be viewed on the computer screen, eliminating the need for paper list. Since the work itself is simple, there is less variation in assembly time compared to other stuff. In short, the work procedures are standardized to a certain method, whereas previously they were assembled in a way that was easy for each individual staff to do. The time required for assembly was reduced by more than 40% before and after the implementation of the system, and in some cases, by more than 80% depending on the set. Please refer to the next slide for a specific case with little variation. This is a bar graph of the assembly time by staff for the basic column set. The average time is shown as red line, which illustrates that staff members other than A and G can assemble the set without significant variation from the average time. Staff A can assemble in a shorter time, which might be developed into a more efficient assembly operation by exploring its methods. Conversely, staff G may not be the most suitable candidate for this role, as even standard tasks require more assembly time. In some cases, reassigning staff to more appropriate tasks will lead to placing the right staff in the right position. Standardizing work is not only effective in our hospital, but also in other hospitals where assembly work can be standardized in a similar amount of time. This graph shows there. This bar graph shows the time required for assembly by number of instruments at the three hospitals. As you can see, all three hospitals were able to assemble in the same amount of time by sharing the same procedures. It looks like hospital A takes less time with less variation, but that might be because it's been longer since the procedure was changed than the other two hospitals, and the staff is more familiar with the process. Next, let's talk about how instruments are used in container sets. In Japan, surgical instruments are often set and packaged in containers according to the surgical procedure. In the past, the process of preparing these sets was often based on the primary surgeon's intuition or experience. This meant that many instruments were prepared but not used. Even if surgical instruments aren't used, they have to be pre-processed once they are opened. This leads to deterioration of the surgical instruments. Not only does this increase the staff workload, but it also increases the learning cost of the reprocessing. This involves a lot of waste. We investigated the actual situation by registering separately instruments used in surgery and not used at the time of postoperative counts. Let's look at two results from the investigation. On the left is an example of a properly configured set, and on the right is an example of a set that may not be appropriate. On the left, 93% of the set is used, and on the right is, however, the set on the right is used only about 57% of the time, and almost 40% of the time is not used, and the playback process is just repeated. If we show the surgeon this result, we can package to set to so that it's used as a spare instrument when needed, rather than as a set. By promoting optimization, we can eliminate unnecessary reprocessing and waste of manpower. In relation to instrument deterioration, let's look at how we repair and dispose of surgical instruments. In a traceability system, data on repair and disposal is also registered. As you can see in this picture, the GS1 DataMatrix on an instrument is read and registered as data together with information on defects and reasons for disposal. This allows us to know how long and how many times the instrument has been used. This graph shows how long each surgical instrument was used and how many times it was used before it was discarded. The horizontal axis shows how long each instrument was used, and the vertical axis shows how many times it was used. This summary, which instruments are to be discarded after how long they are used. It also gives us an idea of why repairs are often made and how much is sent out for repair. Depending on the reason for repair, this can help us decide whether the repair is unavoidable due to deterioration or poor use. In addition, this understanding of the number of repairs will give us an idea of the amount of repairs. This table is a little old and shows the number of repairs in 2017. But when we compare it year to year, the repairs and the repairments were pretty similar. Once this kind of data is visible, the admin department can use it as a basis for budgeting for repairs. Repairs are usually unexpected and difficult to budget for, but now they can be budgeted for. We believe this is a major benefit of optimizing the management of surgical instruments. Finally, let's look at how the new system has helped to reduce the staff workload. As you can see from this picture, before we implemented this new system, our staff members were basically working on a paper basis. In addition, the management of work requiring attention was done manually, including double checking. With the implementation of the system, double checking is no longer necessary because work cannot proceed until the GS1 DataMatrix are read. Incidents such as miscounting or incorrectly assembling similar instruments are also greatly reduced. Depending on the task, it can also help eliminate processes. This shows how we count instruments after surgery. In the past, nurses would check visually before closing the wound to make sure no instruments were left inside the body. Then, before returning the instrument to the CSSD, they check again to make sure the count was right. Then, the CSSD would check the returned instrument again to make sure there were no mistakes and that the right number of instruments had been returned. The reason for all these checks is that mistakes can happen to anyone. It's also a way to deal with cases where instruments aren't returned correctly. For example, an instrument might be thrown away in the operating room and then discovered by the CSSD when they realize the number is insufficient. This was done to deal with these cases. However, by switching to a verification method that led to the 2D symbols when checking the instrument before returning them to the CSSD, it became impossible to return them unless the reading was complete. This eliminated the verification process at the CSSD and reduced the staff workload a lot. We often see this kind of interaction between surgical center nurses and CSSD staff. It's about finding an instrument that needs to be prepared quickly. For example, a nurse said, I need a trauma set as soon as possible. Where can I find it? Could you get it ready as soon as you can? I'm not sure I'll find it right away. After that conversation, both teams start looking for it. In this case, both staff members had to stop what they were doing to look, which was not only time consuming, but also mentally draining. Using the system, it is possible to find out where an instrument is in real time. For instance, as shown in this figure, if we look up where a certain surgical instrument is, it will show that it is in the process of sterilization. Once the status is confirmed, the nurse can quickly get the CSSD staff to supply the sterilized instrument after it has been sterilized. The system is there in the surgical center, so the right instruction can be given without having to contact the CSSD staff. That means no more searching and no more stress of having to rush. The reduced physical and mental load on staff is a big deal, and it also helps staff to be more aware of what's going on. Let me quickly run through the effects of systemization and the visualization of operations. First, the effects of systemization. Using a system, information can be judged mechanically. And if it is inappropriate, work can be stopped as an error. Double checking, which is often used as a countermeasure against incidents, can be done by one person instead of two, since the system plays the role of the second person. Plus, data can be managed from one place and shared with different departments, which has lots of advantages. And by standardizing work, the same quality of work can be done by anyone, no matter their skill level. This reduces human error and accidental mistakes. Once an operation is complete, we record the data. We outsource the reprocessing work so we can directly supervise the staff. When something goes wrong, we meet with the leader of the staff or the company manager. It's easier to discuss issues when we can see data on the status of individual work and the operation of surgical instruments. It also makes it easier to evaluate staff members who are doing well. This should help the staff to be more positive about their works. Data management is useful for understanding the use of surgical instruments and for quality management. Although the visualization of CSSD is mentioned here, it is difficult to say that in Japan, reprocessing is not well understood even within hospitals. It will be possible to demonstrate how sterility is assured, how long the reprocessing takes, and how much time and effort is required in a way that is easy to understand. As previously stated, data-based analysis will have to reduce weight. The instruments removed from the set can be kept as spare instruments. They can be included in a new set when a new set is created, or used as replacement when repaired and needed. This approach also avoids unnecessary cost. In this way, we believe that recording and visualizing operations as data will lead to various improvements. Today's summary: proper management of medical devices is critical for their safe use. And our CSSD, it is the quality management of surgical instruments, including the sterility assurance. The GS1 DataMatrix direct marking on surgical instruments enables individual management. Individual management of surgical instruments contributes to patient safety and hospital management. The implementation of this system is expected to reduce the staff workload. In Japan, there is no legislation requiring the direct marking on surgical instruments. However, if medical device manufacturers mark their instruments from the manufacturing stage, it will be possible to understand the life cycle of surgical instruments and support the provision of safer and higher quality medical care. Information is not only within a hospital or only within a company, but being able to collaborate with each other will lead to the provision of more advanced and higher quality medical care. I'd like to conclude my talk by once again promoting our new university. Thank you for your attention. Monica, I'd like to return the floor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kubota, for your really comprehensive, detailed, and insightful presentation today. We truly appreciate your time and effort in sharing all your expertise and super, I must say, detailed explanation with us today. So now it's time for us to move to the Q&A session. Some of you have already used the Q&A function on the bottom of your screen. I would like to remind you that, well, you can use it while we are answering the questions. So we will do our best to address as many questions as time allows. And our colleagues from GS1 Japan are assisting us as well in answering some of those questions, perhaps more related to GS1 application standards. So let me break the ice, and I have already received one question. So let me, Dr. Kubota, ask you the first question. This is something is recurrent question for all projects, and is how did you engage, how did you convince your management board at hospital about the project and about the implementation and use of GS1 standards for the I think we cannot hear you,
Oh, sorry.
and that's fine.
Uh, if this information is not helpful to you, however, it was 2008 when we were considering implementing the system. That year, Japan developed a guideline for the prevention of prion diseases. The guideline included a requirement to ensure traceability of the instrument used on patients. The chairman of the committee that developed this guideline was a professor of neurology at our university and the deputy director of our hospital. The implementation of the system was not a big challenge. I provided the hospital management board with overview of the system's features and benefits. At the time, I emphasized that the system was not designed for infection prevention, but rather as a comprehensive solution for managing medical devices. I highlighted the system's ability to streamline data analysis and reduce the staff workload. This explanation was sufficient for the management board to understand the system's value.
That's very good. Thank you so much, Dr. Kubota, and this is really helpful that it has been a smooth engagement with your management board. That's very good. Um, we have here another question. Hold on for a second. And yeah, the second question is, what were the key aspects of the GS1 standard that you found most effective in its implementation? There are most of them, but what do you think are the key ones? May perhaps I repeat it again, the question for you?
So, okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, I repeat the
Uh,
question, no problem at all. I was
yeah,
asking, the question is, what were the key aspects of the GS1 standard that you found most effective in its implementation?
okay. If the GS1 standard barcode in the product at the point of purchase, the traceability system can be easily operated by simply reading and registering the barcode. The GS1 standard barcode also makes it easy to identify the instrument. And since this information is shared with the manufacturer, it can be linked with the manufacturer in the event of a defect in the instrument. In Japan, there is an application for smartphone called Henbun Navi that was developed by GS1 Japan in collaboration with industry-related organizations. When we use the app's camera to read the GS1 standard barcode, we can easily open and read related documents like package inserts and instructions for use in PDF format. This is another modest but welcome effect of the GS1 standard for clinical practice.
Okay, thank you so much. We have here another question, and this goes to the other side. So this means What were for you the biggest challenges in implementing the GS1 standards, if you have some?
When we first started thinking about the traceability system, we had the hardest time deciding what kind of code to use. Should we go with RFID or barcode? If we went with barcode, should we use the GS1 standard or our own code? RFID uses automatic recognition tech that can read just by holding it up to an antenna. On the other hand, if we could record automatically using this automatic recognition technology, it would be great, especially considering the extra work for workers due to operational changes. Also, since it's a university, we need to be at the forefront of new developments. But the most important thing was to figure out which one would be the best fit as a standard. If we go with RFID, we'll have to process it by welding the IC tags onto the surgical instrument. This is a big hurdle in itself, but we also know that the change in the appearance of the surgical instrument would make surgeons unhappy. Also, when we thought about how to manage individual surgical instruments, we decided that the benefits of automatic recognition wouldn't be that great because tasks like inspecting each instrument wouldn't be eliminated. Once we decided to go which barcodes we had to decide to use, back in 2008, traceability systems were pretty new, and lots of them were developed under the assumption that the system would use its own unique code. But as I said earlier, when we thought that about what would be standard in the future, the obvious answer was to use the GS1 standard. Once we had decided on the code, we just had to prepare the master record of the instrument and mark the ones that hadn't been marked. It was a lot of work at first, but it wasn't too difficult.
Okay, so that's quite interesting. Thank you so much, Dr. Kubota, for this comprehensive answer to that question. Um, Let me ask you a couple of more questions. This is regarding the labeling on every packaging, and the question is, do you think that GS1 barcode labeling on every packaging or direct marking should also be mandatory by law?
Yeah, since the UDL regulation is spreading around the globe, I'll take a crack at answering your question about the Japanese case. I can confirm that the answer is yes. Right now, labeling is mandatory for each packages sold in Japan, but optional for individual packages. Also, there aren't any specific rules about barcode labelings or direct marking on the medical device itself. As I said, I think the medical devices, especially those that are reusable or implanted in the body, should be individually managed by serial numbers. It's also worth noting that as a medical devices may be recalled. I think it's especially important to link sterilized single-use devices to patients from an infection control perspective. That way, if a recall happens, we can identify which patient used the device. At the very least, each individual medical device should be labeled with a lot number. It might not be the best idea to rely on companies to barcodes on individual medical devices when patient safety is the top priority. Of course, it will cost companies a pretty penny to label each individual product, but with the digital transformation of medical care, even if it costs them money to display the information, they will definitely benefit if they promote data linkage.
Okay, thank you so much. We still have some other questions on the chat. You mentioned several times the need for data linkage. So, how do you see the future road our data linkage? What's your opinion, your views on that?
Today, I mostly talked about the traceability and hospital, but I think it's not just hospital that need to worry about the safe use of medical devices. It's important to understand the life cycle of medical devices. For instance, in Japan, when repairs are made to surgical instruments, some surgical instruments aren't returned to the manufacturer, but sent to another repair company instead. Sometimes another repair company is cheaper and faster because of the repair cost and repair time. One reason hospitals choose this company is because it's cheaper and faster for them. But this might not be the best choice for repairs because it might not be as good quality. It's also not good for product quality management because the manufacturer don't keep a history of the repairs.
Mhm.
Recently, digital transformation has been on the rise in the medical field, and the use of data related to medical treatment is being considered. I believe that if data related to make medical devices could also be utilized, it would contribute to the rapid improvement safety. For example, if a hospital registers for repair and the manufacturer receives the information directly from the hospital, the manufacturer will be able to respond to the repair more quickly than now. We are actually working directly with a manufacturer for repairs, and the repair time is quicker. The repair cost is appropriate, and of course, the quality of the repair is perfect, making it safer and more economical to use the instrument. Plus, if data on how the instrument is used in surgery can be shared with manufacturers, they'll be able to understand the types of procedures in which the instruments are being used. Understanding how they're used may lead to the development of new medical devices. Also, with single-use devices, purchases have happen when they are used up. So if we understand and analyze single-use devices trends, we can reflect them in manufacturing plans and make more of them more cheaply and efficiently. Ultimately, it's still in the patient's best interest. Data can be used in lots of different ways, and if we only use it in our hospital or if companies only use it for logistics and product manufacturing, we will miss out on a lot of potential benefits. It's a tough time for everyone, but I think that by using data, patients, companies, and hospitals can all benefit more.
Absolutely, absolutely, Dr. Kubota. Thank you very much for this long explanation and for clarifying all the questions and doubts of our audience today. I think all the questions has been already answered, so we are running a bit out of time. Only 3 minutes left. If there is still any question, our on the chat, our colleagues from GS1 Japan, sorry, will answer the questions on the chat. So, as we wrap up this quite insightful presentation, I would just like to offer a massive thank you to you, Dr. Kubota, and also our healthcare colleagues at GS1 in Japan for their support and for their commitment as well. So let's recap the, let me say, significant achievements from the implementation of GS1 standards in surgical instrument traceability in Japan. We have seen that the hospital has reduced the workload on staff while significantly enhanced patient safety, which is the ultimate goal. We have seen that each instrument is now traceable with detailed information on when, where, what, how, and by whom it has been used. This implementation has streamlined the setup time for surgical instruments, eliminating errors as well. And furthermore, the hospital has achieved full visibility of each instrument's usage status, which has led to an important reduction in unnecessary instrument setups. So, congratulations to Dr. Kubota and his whole team for the pioneering work. Today, we have seen all the benefits of this project, and from our operational point of view, also from a budgetary perspective, and most important, in improving patient safety. So we hope it can serve as an inspiration, as an example to be replicated in other hospitals around the world. If you need additional information about the project, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, and our colleagues from GS1 in Japan will be happy to assist you as well. Thank you all for joining us today, and we will be back shortly with exciting updates on our upcoming webinars. Stay tuned and stay safe. Good evening.